Hi, and welcome back to another edition of the Intellectual Soul Food Lunch Buffet. I'm your host, Maya McCord. Today's topic is about Senate Bill 129, a recently passed bill in Alabama that has sparked controversy for its restrictions on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. SB 129 mandates the restriction or elimination of DEI offices and programs in publicly funded institutions and also aims teachings around race, gender, or identity, which the bill labels as diversive concepts. This bill is set to go into effect on October 1st, 2024. But what does this mean for college campuses and their inclusion efforts moving forward? We have field reporter Deshaun Wallace, who will be speaking with students, faculty, and administrators to get their perspectives on how this bill may impact campuses, dynamics, and the future of DEI initiatives.
SB 129 is slated to go into effect July 1st, 2024. This means that the transformative reforms outlined in the bill will soon become a reality for students, teachers, and families across the state.
SB 129 is the bill where it's defunding the DEI on our campus, and that kind of affects our school, just not having a place as African Americans or whatever group you may be a part of, the LGBTQ community. You might be able to not feel engraved, or you might not be able to feel included.
We got students from all over the country. We got students from all different backgrounds, different religious thoughts, different sexuality, things like that. So being able to have all these students here and being able to get them all under one roof, essentially, from time to time at all the different events we have, I feel as though DEI is something that I found is most important, and eye-opening to me.
As a nation, I think that education, how we fund it, how important it is to us, and how we prioritize it is a big political agenda that we do not focus on enough.
We should be taught as African Americans like what we have been through this country, and it shouldn't be defunded. It should actually be more promoted so everybody can know.
It's an attack on, I feel like, the minorities, because it makes it hard for us to be in spaces where we can achieve and things like that. It makes it hard to be a minority. It makes it hard to be a part of the LGBTQ plus community. It's an attack on everybody, honestly.
I truly feel like they're just trying to take another crack at black spaces that we fought so hard at.
So how will this affect students at Alabama State University? Well, with reduced funding, the university may be forced to make tough decisions, such as increasing tuition fees, cutting programs, or reducing staff and resources.
I don't support them trying to stop the funding of that, just because that is somewhat, I feel like it'll lead back down to history, where everybody isn't included.
That's what makes us who we are. We're known as the melting pot, and so we cannot run away from that. That is, we've come far as a country. It's nothing to, frown upon, but it's something to know so that we don't repeat it and we're able to grow from it.
It's kind of hurtful, and it's also shocking, but at the same time, I'm not surprised because we are in a red state. However, the SB 129 bill is not a good bill, honestly, for us as black people and other minorities as well.
So that bill kind of hurts the community of the college. Everybody wants to have a safe haven, a safe place to feel like themselves, to feel around like-minded people. And when you take that away from people, it gives them a lost sense of identity.
Not everyone is in favor of the bill. Critics argue that the proposed reforms are insufficient to address. As SB 129 prepares to take effect, its impact on Alabama's education landscape remains to be seen.
Welcome back. As we dive deeper in the topic of SB 129, joining us today is Representative Kenya Hassel and Dr. Carlos Morrison. It's great to have you both here. Representative Hassel, can you explain your position on SB 129 specifically?
Well, SB 129 is something that I totally opposed and I voted against in the legislative session we had that day. We also had a strong debate out of our caucus, especially the Democratic caucus, of mainly the Black caucus also, that we were totally against this legislation. We knew that it caused a lot of problems, not just in our universities, but also in our businesses also. So, yeah.
And from the perspective of you actually being there voting on the bill, was there a true reason why people wanted to exclusively want to have this bill out here?
Yeah, I remember the story that actually, it wasn't a bill sponsored, but he used Representative, I think it was P. Moore, to carry that bill for him in the House. And one of the things that he said was that in school, a lot of students, I would say white students, were being offended by the history of actually what was going on. So if you, for instance, if you had a professor who explained slavery and said that, all the, slave owners were white and they had, they enslaved blacks, and that's what happened, that's true. So, he was saying, he gave an incident of a kid getting so upset that he never wanted to go back to school. And so this is one of the reasons why he was advocating for this piece of legislation. And that was repeated over time, even after we had discussions about it. That was repeated over time, that we want to be fair to students. It wasn't that student's fault that it wasn't his issue. It wasn't his fault that issues came because of slavery or even because even segregation.
And Dr. Moe, do you believe Senate Bill 129 will affect the learning environment for students in Alabama?
Oh, no question. I sit and I think that it will have, if you will, to borrow a legal term, a chilling effect. Where my colleagues will feel hesitant, if you will, to talk about issues related to diversity, to talk about the enslaved African, to talk about issues related to race and gender, and in doing so, feel that there may be some sort of punishment. It's as if the thought police, if you will, be by the door waiting to carry them away or to fire them, and so it sends a very troubling, if you will, message to my colleagues. I mean, we have an organization within the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences. One of our committees is a diversity committee. So do we change our name? Because I got colleagues who feel like, maybe we need to change our name. So, yeah, it's minorities in communication. That's one of our courses. Do you change your name now? It needs to make it something else that makes people feel comfortable. And that's the thing. I guess people want to feel comfortable at someone else's expense.
And as an educator, considering that most of this is going to be affecting collegiate campuses, how far do you think this will go when it comes down to little kids, and how will they learn more about their history to a certain degree?
Oh, that's devastating when you think about it. It's this trickle-down effect, because it's like they're only going to get one side of the story. They won't get the full picture. And unfortunately, that picture is not a pretty picture. They need to know the history of what happened to our ancestors, those enslaved Africans. They need to know about the cruelty of the slave master, and they won't. And so they'll get just one version. His story.
I want to piggyback off what Dr. Barnes said. One of the things about, if you're in the school, you're in middle school especially, and you get a particular teacher that, let's say you get an African American teacher, and he can talk from experience, and he also can talk from the text. And so that professor now, if he talk more about his experience, or even talk from the text, and say, look, I can be from this area. My great-great-grandfather was a slave here in this particular area where he's teaching at. And trying to relate to that student, because the student's from that area too. The reason why certain things are the way they are in that particular town, city, or county. And so now that professor can be held liable, or that teacher can be held liable for teaching his experience with text now. I mean, teaching this to that student, he can be alive. If that one student get offended, go back and tell a parent, that teacher can be fired. And that's a big impact. I think that's going to hurt a lot of educators with this particular legislation. Also, even with businesses, I have worked with political organizations where city employees or even county employees will come and say, "Hey, I'm being discriminated against." And some areas do have diversity, or inclusive equity programs in their city government. Now, if they're getting funded with this particular legislation from any state funds with that into that government, that argument is gone. I mean, you can't say I'm being wrongfully done only because I'm black, or even contract work. If we want to, a lot of times that we say, look, we want to bring diversity into this particular, we're building prisons in the state of Alabama, right? And we want black contractors to be a part of that. We want to make sure we have certain percentage of black contractors to working on that particular project. Now that we can't say that, one of the things that I give credit to Senator Smitherman and Senator Singleton, they amended that legislation to allow we have a minority office, state office here in the state of Alabama. We want to get more meat to that office, but with this particular legislation, it make it hard. And that amendment, we're allowed to keep that diversity office in the state of Alabama, which is good. And I just want to make sure we put it out there that they worked very hard to put that amendment on, and they got it. But we still want to understand that role, what that office is going to do with this particular legislation. So those are kind of some of the impacts of what SB 129 is going to affect, from education-wise, from business-wise, but also, what concerned me too, even at HBCUs. Let's say you have a tennis team or a tennis player or a golf player from Europe, and he's white, and he's here being recruited. Now, he's part of what? Being inclusive or bringing equity or diversity to this HBCU. Even though, he want to go here, but now, let's say he have an issue or something he's going through, do he have an office he can go to, a minority? He's the minority at a HBCU. Now, can he come with his issue that he might have? And I think that sometimes when they draft this legislation, they don't think about it holistically. They think about one aspect of it. And we shared this on the floor. We shared this same scenario on the floor about how it don't just affect African Americans or any other group that you're targeting, but it affects even your own people in that aspect.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for that really in-depth spiel. It was a lot. And thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
And we're heading to a short break, but when we get back, we're heading to a short break, but when we return, we'll dive deeper into more of the conversation about campus politics.
With the 2024 presidential elections quickly approaching, it is important for young adults to become more involved in politics. In today's political landscape, agendas are driving discourse among ASU students. We went out in the field to see how engaged those students are.
One of my political agendas is social media. In the past week, they passed a bill to ban TikTok because it's not a U.S. app, and they're taking a lot of our information, and it's very influential on young people.
Health disparities within the black community are important to me because there are many social determinants that are in need of changing in order to improve patient care.
One political agenda that's important to me is the stricter gun laws. I feel as if too many people are losing their lives each year.
I feel like gun laws should be more heavily enforced, especially with violence getting out of hand. It's mostly younger people dying due to gun violence.
One of my political agendas that I feel strongly about is abortion laws. I think that abortion laws should be legal everywhere, because women have their choice.
Right now, women are being attacked. As far as our reproductive rights, we're not able to have control over our bodies anymore.
Abortions, I feel like women should have the power to do anything they want with their bodies.
It's like you can't tell a woman what to do with her body. She's her own person.
You can't tell her. She's at liberty to her own body and her own rights. You can't tell her what to do with her body. If anything, what if she's bringing a child into poverty and she doesn't want that to happen?
So it's just, the abortion thing, just taking away another life that God has blessed you with, it would definitely affect me in a more negative than positive way.
From gun violence prevention to reproductive rights, students and activists are shaping the agenda and demanding action from their elected representatives.
Alabama State University, we're focused on student success. Choose from 63 undergraduate and graduate degree programs from a university that has provided educational excellence for more than 150 years. From research to robotics, education to economics, theater to technology, we have the degree to fit your future. Choose the tradition. Choose the promise. Choose Alabama State University.
Welcome back as we continue our discussion on SB 129 and a little bit of campus politics. I'm with Tyron Moore and Mr. Hassel. Now, Tyron, can you think of any do you know the influence that social media has on the youth in voting and politics in general?
Well, absolutely. Social media is our main source of information that most young people take in. But social media also presents a lot of false information that you have to be aware of. That's why it's important to always do your research and don't take everything at face value, because we've seen with the last president that we had and his supporters and the amount of false information that was proven to be false that was put on social media.
And we can talk a little bit more about SB 129 coming into that too. So from a student perspective, how do you look at it, considering that this is our education and it's the government messing with our education and history?
Well, SB 129, it will set the country back for years to come, and I think it's going to start a wave, especially across the South, to remove diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And it's going to be a time where children who are currently in school now aren't going to remember DEI programs. I think that because of the inclusive experiences that I had in my education, where I was able to get the whole history, not just a part that somebody told me because they felt that that's all I needed to know, I was able to gain a broader aspect. So we're going to see a change.
And considering we're Gen Z, how do you think our generation kind of differs from the older generation when it comes to voting and politics?
This is a real interview, or you want me to be censored?
This is an interview.
Okay. Our generation, part of it, they have the drive and the initiative to be able to get out on the front line and speak out about issues and stand out and be advocates. But our generation is a bit on the lazier side, some of them. We often see people who just get on their phone and type and speak out about things, but what are you actually going to do about it? Oh, I don't like this, but you're not voting to actually make a difference about the issue. So with my generation, sometimes we have to stop so much talking and start taking action. Now, it's not everybody. We have some people who are on the front lines, but we've got to take some action and stop doing so much talking. Let's be about it.
And it's
I also want to share what Mr. Moore was saying. I want to piggyback on what he said. And also the older generation get a little bit more engaging, right? I think that if we engage more, and it's all about, just bridging the gap, because, they have the, you would say the younger generation have the energy, have the technology, as a sense, to reach out to more people because they're more educated in it, they're more involved in it. It's a tool that Gen Z has used, especially social media. I have a job, I work with Young Life too, and one of my evaluation issues is be more involved in your social media, and I should be, but I like to take the advice of a Gen Z to say, hey, post this and post that, and then put your message out there more, and that's what I learned from the next generation, right, of Gen Z, but also the older generation need to be more engaging enough to let them understand the process, understand how to get involved. Because I was one of those guys that probably was one that got involved when I was in college at a young age. And I got involved, and I was working on a mayoral campaign up in Birmingham. When I started off in the field, but I also got up to start having making decisions on the campaign. But I had to work my way through to doing that. So.
And I did want to add one more thing that I do often say, that older people, if they actually set the time out to sit down with young people and talk to them about their experiences, that could really make a difference, because we have a lot of freedom fighters around here, especially being in Montgomery, the birthplace of the modern day civil rights movement. There's a lot of rich wisdom here, and I personally, and a large group of young people that I know, they want to sit down with these people and actually get their experiences. So I think if our older generation is willing to share that in a non-judgmental, progressive way, then I think we'll see some change there as well.
Y'all both pretty much went through my next question, was basically like what, and basically, since our generation kind of grew up with technology and everything, from that difference, when you were growing up, what was the difference between us now and then when it came to politics? And
well, I'll say this: you can reach, if you want to reach 100 people, you know, when I first got involved back in 2002, you really had to go. It took you probably 4 or 5 days to reach 100 people. You know, that you directly want to talk to. I mean, now you can reach 100 people right on your cell phone or more. You know, so I think that's one of the biggest differences. You can mobilize a lot easier too, because you do have a connection. You have a network that's all embedded in your social media. You got followers who follow you, who listen to you, who respect you, who, you know, pretty much a lot of times when I would come in, you had to earn that respect, right? You had to be seen a lot more. But now people are more engaging through that social media, where a younger generation person can say, hey, I got 500 people I can give this flyer to, where we had to hand that flyer out to 200 people. That took a lot of time and a lot of energy and time. But I think that's one of the major differences now I see on the political aspect of it, just getting that message out, right? And, you know, a lot of times you didn't have a press conference, or you didn't have this platform that you have now. You had a press conference or a town hall, and sometimes I can get that message out now using social media, using younger generation. In my campaign I had in my state house race, I think I had about 20 college students, and the 20 college students got involved. They helped me get the word out with their peers to say, hey, go and vote for, you know, Kenyatta Hassel. He understands us. He want to fight for us, and he want to do things for us. And that message went out to thousands, only because of their social media. They got 2,000 followers, 2,500 followers, 1,000 followers, 500, but it went out to that social media in less than a half a day. You know, so I thought that was great. I think it's good, you know, with the younger generation using that platform.
And with my next question, both of you can answer this from each of your different perspectives, but Tyron, from your perspective first, how hard is it to have, I guess, political conversation and discussions with your peers?
Well, I think that it depends on the person that you're talking to. And whenever you're having political conversations with people, you have to understand that you have to meet people where they are. I'm not going to come up to you thinking that you have the same level of knowledge that I do in the political realm. I'm going to come up to you and say, hi, what's your name? My name is. Okay, well, are you a registered voter? Well, why not? What issues interest you? What are some things that you want to see change? I think that if we start having more conversations and get with people's level and not thump it at them with so much information that they can't process it, then we'll see a difference.
Well, what he said is exactly what, and that's how you do it. I think that you do go to people where they are. You have to, and I think you have to build that trust. And I think when people see you more than one time, also when you engage with them and you say, hey, you got that same, the same energy, same being relational, same energy, same message, and they're like, oh, this guy's consistent in what he is, what he's doing, and what he's trying to do. I think once they see that, they'll be more engaging in that process.
I want to extend a big thank you to our guests, Tyron Moore, Mr. Hassel, and Dr. Moe for sharing such valuable insights with us today. With all hearts, minds, and stomachs full, this concludes our second nourishing episode of the Intellectual Soul Food Lunch Buffet.